Hey everybody, this is Jason Ostrowski and welcome to another episode of the Everything Real Estate Podcast. You know, one of the first things that they teach you in real estate is to work your sphere of influence, right? Your sphere of influence is going to be the foundation upon which you build a referral-based business. But what happens if you have no sphere of influence? What happens if you move here from outside of the area and you don't know a soul? How do you go about building a successful real estate business without knowing anybody? Well, our next guest is actually going to tell us his story and how he built his business basically from scratch. His name is Andrew Jacobs from the Jacobs team. He's got some great ideas to share with you, so let's get into it with Andrew and we'll talk on the other side. All right, so we're here today with Andrew Jacobs from the Jacobs team, and his primary base of operations is in the Yardley office, and he also sells in New Jersey under Princeton Junction as well. So, Andrew, I was really excited to talk to you today. How you doing?
Good, Jason. How are you?
So, I'm good. So, getting started, I just wanted to let the listeners know how we kind of got hooked up here. So it's an interesting story. I have a friend and colleague that's in my office in Springhouse who just happened to be in a continuing education class, and they were in one of these breakout rooms and Zooms that people are used to now. And she starts talking to this young lady and ends up that she works for our company in the Yardley office. And it was your wife, Gina, who was talking to my friend, and they got to talking, and she kind of told the story about how you built your business and how you both, or at least you have come from kind of out of the area into this area and built your business in a very unique way and built it pretty quickly. And so my colleague is telling me all this, and I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. I got to have him on the podcast because I think what you can share, especially to the younger agents that are just starting out, I think really can be invaluable about how you built your business and you built it quickly. And you did it without really knowing anybody in the area. So just starting out, let's just start from the beginning here. You're originally from Edison, New Jersey, correct?
Yes, sir. Yep.
All right. So your mother's been in the business for over 30 years.
Yes.
And is she still in the business?
Yeah, dabbling.
All right. So I know how it is to grow up in a real estate family. My mother's been in the business over 30 years too.
Right.
So I know, reading your bio and doing a little research on you, I know you worked for Spotify before you got into real estate. So I'm always interested in what people did before they got into real estate, because for some it translates well, and for others it maybe, doesn't translate so much. So let's start there with the first question. How was the transition working for a company like Spotify and then coming into real estate, and what prompted you to get into real estate?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. I was in the music industry my whole adult life until this point. So in high school, I had a band, a rock band, and we got signed to Warner Brothers label, and we made albums, we toured. So I was a musician full time for a while. And then once the band kind of fell apart at some point, I did other music projects and I wrote some music for people, but eventually I just decided I needed a more stable income. So I actually started working at Warner Music Group in New York City. And I worked my way up to account manager for the Spotify account. So I actually worked at Warner Music Group, but that's about a third of the music industry and managing the Spotify accounts. So, I worked my way up in that business, and I applied a lot of that to how I tried to build real estate. But, it's digital media. It was a great job, and I had a lot of friends there, but I had long commutes to New York. Mm-hmm. From central New Jersey. The train times are the worst in history at the moment. So it's just really, really a rough go. And at some point I got really sick of it. And I think I did it for 5 years or something and worked my way up quickly in that company, but it wasn't for me. And sitting at the desk all day. And I also was feeling a little empty that I wasn't really doing meaningful work for people. Mm-hmm. So what's important, I think, for people I talk to and agents just getting going, it's frustrating. It's hard to build a business. What I did was I dreamed. I was on the train and I was saying, there's got to be something better. And even though my mother was a real estate and a top agent for a long time in central New Jersey, I didn't care about what she did. I didn't know much about what she did. And she always told me, you're not allowed to do this. It's way too stressful.
That sounds very familiar.
Yeah.
It's funny when I was getting started. So before I was in real estate, I was in catering. And I was the worst caterer on the face of the earth. Like, you did not want me like making you any kind of sandwich or anything like that. I was terrible at it. And so they put me as the kind of the front man of the company. I was the guy who kind of schmoozed the clientele, and I went and I would collect bills and payments and everything. And so they kind of cornered me off in that section. So when I decided to get out of that business and get into real estate, my mother, was for years was like, get your license. I finally get my license. And she says, are you sure you want to do this? Like, don't you want to become a doctor or something like that? And I was like, you told me to do this. What? So it worked out pretty well since then. But getting back to your story. So you decide to make a career change, and what brings you to Bucks County then?
Well, so the important aha moment was I was on the train one of those days, and I don't want to say I didn't do anything in real estate. I mean, when I was younger, I worked in my mother's office. She had her own brokerage, Debbie Jacobs Realty, for a while. So I definitely knew about it, but I did take this music industry angle. But again, I was just getting really sick of commuting. So I was on the train, and I read a book called, I think it's Unleash the Giant Within or something like that, by Tony Robbins. Yep. And Tony Robbins might have a mixed reputation, but it didn't matter. That book, it was a long time ago, and he wrote it well. And in it, he says, he gives you an exercise to do. He says, just clean slate, take a piece of paper, and just dream. What do you want? And so I wrote down these things. I want no commute. I want, make my own hours. I want to be at my future kids' soccer games. I want unlimited income. I wasn't happy on a salary. I really felt I was worth more than I was getting paid. And most importantly, I wanted to make a difference and help people. And again, I was feeling fairly empty with the work I was doing on digital media. So I came up with this whole list, and I said to myself, wow, I think that's what my mother does. So I talked to her, and she said, yeah, you're missing one thing though. It's stressful. So I said, and she's like, you're not allowed to do this. You're not allowed to do this. I said, that's fine. So eventually my wife and I, we would always vacation to New Hope. And one day we fell in love and said, you know what, let's just move here. And so we bought a place, had some savings, and quit our jobs. And I got licensed in PA and New Jersey at the same exact time. And I didn't know one person. And when I say that, I mean it. I didn't have a dentist. I didn't know anybody. We used a realtor that I found online. Like, I did not know anybody.
I think that's what makes your story so fascinating, right? Because I have known agents that have come from out of state and have built a really impressive business. And, it's really, I think, a testament to you and these other agents that can do these things, right? Because it takes a lot of guts to do what you did, right? You find a place that you love, you're like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's move here. And you start a new career on top of that, and nobody in a what typically is a referral-based business, right?
Right.
So now that you start this business, you get your license in 2 states. And so what do you do next? What was your first order of business?
Good. So, and thanks for the kind words, man. So, I would say, importantly, we had some savings, and Gina at the time was working a side thing, and I had a little bit of side work from Warner Brothers. So, we were able to stay afloat, and that was the big thing. And we also lived below our means. So, because real estate can take time to really get moving. So that was a big part of it. I know not everybody's in the position to, people have kids already and very busy lives, and you can't just quit a job and start a new job. So a commission-based job at that. So So, obviously I'm very grateful for being able to do something like that. That said, we interviewed with a couple of brokerages, and, to talk about Fox and Roach specifically, there were really two brokerages I met with, and they were totally different approaches. The one approach was, hey, we have a team over here. You join the team and we're going to feed you leads. And we use internet marketing. So we got more leads than we can handle. And you're going to get buyers, and you're just going to be a buyer's agent. And your name's not going to be on the sign. It's going to be my name. And we're going to give you lead. And you're going to cold call as well from Monday to Thursday for 4 or 5 hours a day. And you're going to just dial. We got dialers. You're a dialer. So you're going to call. And then all weekend, you're going to be out driving buyers around, and you're going to get a very small cut of the deals. And, but I guarantee you'll make $75,000 in a year, or whatever he said, $100,000 in the first year. And you know what? I'm sure they were right. I mean, that much volume of internet leads.
Dialing for dollars.
Yeah, so it would have been a quicker build, but I was like, well, yeah, but my name's not on the sign, and how do I get referrals after the closing? I mean, and these are all internet people, so am I building a community? I don't know. So I liked the dollars, but everything else didn't really sound great, and I don't want to cold call. I was thinking to myself, I'm here because I want to make a difference, not bother people on their lunch break. So then I met with Fox and Roach, and it was totally different. They said, look, we have a great reputable company. We have a big market share here. You're going to find a ton of opportunity to do open houses for our agents. You'll find a ton of opportunity to take leads from agents and work with them, and tag along and learn. We have such education here. And they showed me all the best courses, and my office had a ton of, they have sales meetings, they have contract review, and just, education from top to bottom. I was going to be provided a mentor to help me with my first 3 deals. So I was just like, this sounds like a great thing. Now, the one thing they couldn't offer me was a bunch of leads, right? This is really a place where you're going to build a brand and build a business, and that it comes from quality clientele. And the quality clientele is going to be people that know people that are in a sphere of influence. Mm-hmm. And, I think everyone would understand that's a slower build, but I don't know, it was a calculated decision to say, hey, this is the route I want to go, because maybe at first it's going to be slow moving and I don't know people here, and I would love some internet leads, but that's cold business. I really want to build a warm business. Mm-hmm. So I took that leap of faith, went with Fox and Roach, and I spent the first year educating myself, and I learned every word of the contract. I learned everything about the market that I wanted to work in, and I did all the classes. I did a Buffini course they gave us, and I really asked a million questions, and everyone was just so helpful and willing to bet on my success. And so that was the route I took, and I'm glad I did, because now we've been able to build a business that's our own, and it's mostly referral based at this point.
And you've built, and to your point, you've built a foundational business, right? That's kind of what I call how when you're working referral based, because we know there's 100 different ways to skin a cat in real estate, right? And there are people that are very successful doing what you just told me, the 2 different options, right? You can cold call for 2 hours a day in the morning and then constantly run people around. But to your point again, how are you building a referral-based business? How are you nurturing those relationships to last long-term so you become their realtor for life, right? It's very hard to do when you're just cold calling and you're on, one person to the next.
Right. Right. Now that I think...
I love your story. I love your story.
Well, thank you. And I think so, in that first year, I had to figure out how to build this. And there were some rough points because it really wasn't happening. I was educating myself, but I didn't know anybody. Mm-hmm. So I did a few different things. There's a book called 7 Levels of Communication by Michael Marr or something. And somewhere in one of his talks, he says, first of all, find your lane. So pick your town. And that's you see agents, they say, specialized in Bucks and Montgomery County. Please, give me a break, all right? Nobody specialized in 2 hours of each other. So we really, I tried to find my lane. I can't tell you how valuable that advice was when someone gave it to me, is pick your lane. In real estate, you could do short sales, you could do foreclosures, for sale by owners, expireds. There's a million different things you could do. And as you're starting out, your brain is spinning because you're on YouTube, you're listening to podcasts, and you're getting 1,000 different ideas. And you might have a lead from an hour away and you'll go drive over there. And it's just, you're all over the place. And so once I found simplicity and I said, I want to work here in these 2 towns predominantly. And, I don't want to do expireds. I don't want to do for sale by owners and try and convert them. That's just not what I'm here for. I'm here to help families. I also picked my price range. And I think that's important too. The $1 million plus price range did not interest me. And I had a couple buyers that were looking at properties like that. It just didn't interest me. I didn't feel I had enough to offer them. Also, the idea of getting a listing that might take 6 months to sell, 10 months to sell, did not interest me. I couldn't sleep at night if that was happening. Mm-hmm. So I said, you know what? I want to focus in the 3s to 4s to 5s to, obviously I'd love a couple 6s and 7s. And then obviously I'm happy with condos and 1s and 2s. Those are my people, and I can really help families in that price range. So I really made some lane decisions. And once I did that, my antennas were up for just that lane. Every morning I woke up, I knew what I was building. I had a vision of it. And so it slowly started to happen. I think a couple of big tips. So first of all, 7 levels of communication. He says, who are the players in town? Who own a ton of businesses on Main Street? Who are they? Find them, get coffee with them. I did that with tons of big names in town. And I said to them, hey, I don't know anybody yet, but I want to knock your socks off and show you, I'm going to be a really good realtor in this town someday.
You know what? Let's stop there, because I have a question for you. Being, you're a young man, right? Probably younger than me at this point. I got some gray in the beard, but I still consider myself relatively young. But being that you're just getting into the business, you're a young guy, you're inviting people to coffee now. There's a lot of agents out there that are hesitant to do that, right? They're afraid of rejection. They don't know what to say. Right. So how did you approach people doing that?
There's no reason to be hesitant. And when I was in the music industry, I did the same thing. I would hang out with the CEO of Warner Music Group, and people would say to me, how did you get in his office? Or I walked up to the door and knocked. Mm-hmm. And I said, hey, I've heard your name around. Just wanted to introduce myself. I work on the 8th floor. Would love to, buy you coffee and get to know your story a little bit. I really would inspire me. You know what these guys all say to me? They say, no one's ever asked me for that. Exactly. So same thing in town. When I got here, I reached out to all the big realtors. I went on Zillow, found out who's the top realtors, and I had coffee with them. I had coffee with shop owners and just people in town. And all you do is ask. You just say, hey, heard your name around, really impressed by your story, would love to, buy you coffee or buy you a drink and trade stories if you wouldn't mind. I'm hungry. I'm here. I want to learn about you. And I didn't get declined by anybody. It's not hard to do. And, we all wake up in the morning. We all have the same amount of hours in a day. I don't get this whole starstruck, we're all the same. Come on now.
I totally agree with you 100%. Look, you never have anything to lose except, your time and effort, right? So if you're willing to put the time and effort into it to try and make it work, a lot of people just say yes. And for the reason you just said, nobody else is asking them to do that. Right. No. And so you have nothing to lose. And so, okay. So you start asking people, around the players in town. You said to stay, you're staying in your lane. And that's another thing that I love listening to, because you found your why, right? You found your why and you kind of micro targeted what your objective is now. right? So now you can kind of employ all these different strategies moving forward with your business. So you're learning the business the first year from the ground up. You start talking to people in town, you start talking to other agents, and where do you go from there? Because your first year, you said, I think you sold one house your first year.
Nothing happened, right?
Yeah, right. But you're setting that foundation again.
Mm-hmm.
I always used to tell my agents when I was in management, the first year, I'm not concerned about how many houses you sell. I'm concerned about what you learn and what you take in, because you're setting that foundation for the future. Right. So you do that. Okay. So then where do you go from there?
Yeah. And so, and I did also want to preface, I want to say, I'm not special. I'm a regular guy. I wake up late sometimes. I mean, it's just, I watch podcasts and I hear podcasts, I watch webcasts, I read books, and, these people that are successful, they, you always get the impression that they're up every morning and they don't really show their true colors. And I'm sorry, it's not really you. I make mistakes. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes. I mean, really, everyone listening to this should not look to me and say, wow, this guy built the business so fast. He's like an amazing, I could never do blah, blah. That's ridiculous. I'm so normal. It's unthinkable, right? So let's just put that right out there. We are all on the same playing field. And all I did was I just made a couple of good moves, right? I talked to some people, I impressed them, and I found out who the players in town were. I joined a great company who had a lot of resources for me to learn. And so I'm really getting my education. And so now I watch the market every morning. I check my phone, I look at the hot sheets. And so where I was at that point was I felt really comfortable that I understand this business. And I understand it from a perspective of, I think most realtors have it wrong. I really do. Most realtors think this is sales. It's not sales. It's not sales. I mean, we're not selling any products. We're not in a retail store. We're not selling a car. We're meeting families and helping them get to a destination. We're matchmaking. So when you flip that in your brain, and there's a book called The Go-Giver, mm-hmm. which he says, you're not a go-getter. You're not going to get, you have to give value. And so once I realized that, I flipped my brain and I said, wow, okay, I really get this now. So when I was meeting people and I was at open houses, or I was meeting some of these top players, or, things like that, and I was starting to get into the market, that radiated off of me. And I said to myself, how do I differentiate myself from the hundreds of other realtors out there? Oh, wait a second. Most of them have this wrong. So if I do this right, I might do okay. And that's exactly what happened. And I know this sounds pie in the sky, and people listening might say, well, that doesn't, there's nothing concrete here. But there really is something concrete here. When a buyer is walking to 5 different open houses in a day, 4 of those realtors are going to go up to that buyer. Hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Sign in here. Okay. Hey, isn't this house beautiful? Look at the pool. We just reduced the price. Like blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. Not at my open house. I'm sorry. That is no way to meet a prospective buyer. When they walk in the door, and open houses were big for me. That's how I got out there and met people. When they walk in the door, I immediately take myself out of my body and I go in their body. And I'm that person now. And I'm walking in the door and I see this realtor over here. And what do I want? I want that realtor to leave me alone.
I knew that's what you were going to say. Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Uh-huh.
So now I'm that person. And so I'm walking through the house and I'm looking around and I'm doing my thing. And maybe I have a kid dragging on my, pants. And so I don't want to be bothered. So at these open houses, I really started to hang out in the kitchen, and I would work, and I'd, work on something else, and I'd be on my phone and I'm doing my thing. And more times than not, somebody would come up and ask me a question about the house or whatever. And I have studied the house before the open house. I've studied the neighborhood, so I know the other actives and closed. It doesn't take long, guys. I mean, really, it's, 10, 15 minutes, you learn the whole neighborhood. It's not hard. And they ask me a couple questions, and I respond in a professional and knowledgeable manner. I've already done more than the other 4 agents they've met that day.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you met, well, a couple things. The Go-Giver, which is a fundamental book of people who've listened to the podcast before. I I'm a big fan of ninja selling. I'm a ninja myself, and the Go Giver is one of their fundamental tenets as far as books go. Mm-hmm. And so my philosophy is the same of yours, right? You give, and therefore you receive, right? You're first, if you're helping people, the business is going to come along. Right. And secondly, when it comes to open houses, I totally agree with you, is that, if I'm holding an open house, I don't sit there hanging on somebody's shoulder. I just say, hey, look, here's some just bullet points for you. Feel free to walk around. If you have any other questions, I'll be right here.
Yeah, and
that's it. It's simplistic.
Yeah, and these people are at open houses because they really aren't making private appointments. They're not really there yet. And so it's a great opportunity to pick up a client and be able to help them. So, they'd ask me a question about the house, I'd answer, and I would also follow up. And I'd say, now, I noticed you didn't like that it didn't have a basement or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I say, there's one down the street for sale. It has a basement. It's this many square feet and blah, blah, blah. So, I'm there to sell the house, obviously, and I want to do my duty to try and sell that house. But if somebody, you can tell if they don't like the house, then that's done. That part of the conversation is done. But hey, let's keep them in the company. Let's try and bring this person and give them a good real estate experience. So, the one down the street has a basement, and it actually is a little more square footage, and it's at this price. Have you seen it yet? Oh, no, I haven't seen that yet. All right, well, here's my number. Feel free to text me and I'll show you the house. That's how my stuff got started, is I was able to help people. And I knew the neighborhood. And, when you're newer, you feel like you don't know enough. And it's just not true. If you're in real estate for 3 days, you know more than every single person out there that buys or sells a home 5 times in their life. You already know more. Mm-hmm. So you just have to have that confidence, but not just a fake confidence. Study. It's not hard. I mean, just watch the market every morning. You start to learn it. So,
yeah, preparation is key.
Yeah. So I really I was able to speak confidently, and I think people could tell that I genuinely wanted to help them. I didn't have a desperation on me. I just genuinely wanted to know, what do you need? Tell me what you need. Oh, you need that? I already know there's 4 houses on the market that might work for you, and you really should see them. And, let's connect. So I think I already did more than the other realtors. So I started to differentiate myself. And then I just kept meeting people and getting my name out there. I'm really good with the follow-up. There's a very fine art when it comes to following up. Mm-hmm. So I don't throw somebody on an automatic email campaign and then I forget about them. I really try and make a list, and I keep it personal. And they come in my head, and I say, well, I think it's 4 days that I spoke to them. Let me just see how they're doing. But I don't just say, hey, how you doing? What's new? I say, hey, how you doing? Another house popped up. Here's a link. That might work for you. So I'm giving people value, and all the time I would get responses. Wow, I didn't see that one. Can we go look at it tonight? Boom. There you go.
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I get an email today from one of my clients that wants me to look. Unfortunately for her, they had a little bit of mold in the house because of a leak. And so now they hire, a mold remediation company to come out, and she wanted to ask me a bunch of questions and bounce stuff off of me. And I said, hey, look, send me the report. Let me look it over, and I'll give you my honest opinion on how to proceed and what to do. And It's just keeping in touch with those people and, like you said, providing value, right? So the other thing I wanted to talk about, you sat a lot of open houses, right? Mm-hmm. And slowly kind of build your business. You're taking people out to coffee. You're building your business. Now you get to a point where you're starting to get busier and busier.
Well, and go ahead. One other point to make, as for newer agents, I didn't have any sales, but I started building my online profiles. So I put a great bio on there, got professional pictures, and I had people, at least on my Facebook, give me 5-star reviews. And I'm talking people I've worked with in other businesses. Mm-hmm. So when I would meet someone new, I didn't have a lot of sales, but they would check me out online and see, wow, this guy seems pretty reputable. I think that's important to do too. A lot of newer agents, their pages just have nothing on them. Yeah. Everyone's going to look you up. So, I wanted to give people confidence, and I would give people references. And even though I didn't have that many sales, you still can show people that you're a very professional person. Just because I'm not successful in real estate yet doesn't mean I haven't been successful in other areas of life.
You know, and that's such a great point because, and I'm not trying to embarrass anybody that is guilty of this, right? But it always blew my mind that we would have agents that when, let's say you go on the Fox Roach website and you're looking at a roster, right? So I go onto the Yardley office roster and everybody's picture is there, right? And in every single company, it doesn't matter what company it is, it doesn't matter what office it may be, there are people that don't even have a picture up. Mm-hmm. And it just boggles my mind how, like you talk about online presence, at a minimum, you should have your Fox Roach website. You know, it's not hard to do. It's automatic for you, right? So you should look into that, make sure that it looks the right way, because people are going to check you out online. Make sure that your picture is certain places. Like you talk about reviews. I mean, online reviews are worth their weight in gold now. And I think that's a great idea, that if you're coming from a different industry, you know people who can give you a review, a professional review. And
so tell all your friends and family to like your Facebook page. You can get 200-300 likes right there.
Yeah, exactly. And as far as reviews go, if you don't have the reviews yet, have your friends and family give you a review. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, they can attest to your character. You know, so
and I took out early on, I would take out some renters and I would take out some, I would meet with some prospective clients and it wouldn't work out. I'd still tell them, but they loved me because I really worked hard. I'd say, hey, can you go on this link? Give me a 5-star review. I would get reviews from people that didn't get me paid. That's
awesome. That is awesome. And I'm glad that you brought it up because it's so vitally important to your business nowadays. Yeah. You know, in the past, you could get by without it when the internet wasn't what it is today, and Google reviews and Zillow reviews and just realtor reviews in general. Now you have to have that stuff. I mean,
you do. And just another thought that pops into my head that I think that our agents would find valuable, you know, when you're trying to, obviously we're competing with realtors out there, especially people that are bouncing around open houses or they're looking online. They have 100 choices of a realtor. But when you get somebody on the phone or face-to-face, or you have this opportunity to show them value, a couple of the things I talked about are important. But furthermore, you have to understand that people don't understand how real estate works. Even if they've bought 5 homes before, they really don't understand it. So I'm telling you, at least 2 or 3 times a day, I unprovoked explain the process start to finish to somebody. I do it all the time. I did it to my father the other day. I mean, I do it all the time. So if I meet somebody, and let's go back to the open house example, meet somebody, and I'm in that very first 3 questions, maybe. What are you looking for? Where are you guys coming from? Blah, blah, blah. Hey, have you bought a home before? Oh, yeah, we did, 15 years ago. Okay, the process changed a little bit. Take out a piece of paper, flip it over, take out a pen. So first, once you find that house, really important to make a good offer. And here's what's involved with an offer. And, you're going to put a closing date, deposit check. Do you understand how a deposit check works? Now let me explain it to you, blah, blah, blah. Mortgage, let's talk about mortgage companies. And I can go on for an hour about that. Inspection. So just so you know, Mr. Buyer, you're going to get to inspect this house. And if anything's wrong, we have options. Seller can make repairs. You can cancel if you need to. I mean, there's really a lot of options. And by the end of this 5 minutes, and I do it all the time, this person knows that I care about them and that I understand this process deeply. And it just really helped me separate myself from the other realtors that, frankly, probably don't really understand the contract, are not organized, and don't really feel like taking the time to explain it from start to finish to somebody.
Yeah, it's very true. So I actually wanted to talk specifically next about something that, I read about you, but was in your bio, I think, on the website, and when it comes to charity. Mm-hmm. And can you explain a little bit about what you do as far as donations to charity goes?
Sure. So we have the Fox and Roach charity. So every paycheck we get, we deduct some to the Fox and Roach charity. And then on top of that, not everybody cares or is into it, but for clients that, you can tell they really try and give back to the community. And we offer to them basically, hey, once we get to closing, I'd love to make a donation into a charity of your choice. And so we've done dozens of charities that I've never even heard of, that the client will tell me, hey, you know what, I'm really into this charity and we really care about animal rights or whatever. And I say, great. And I make a donation and I send them a note, a donation's been made in your name. I don't know. It's just, there's no reason for us to all be so greedy that every dollar has to go in our pocket. And so it's been a fun initiative. I will say not everybody's into it. I don't know why. I mean, I'm literally asking them what their favorite charity is, but a lot of clients do appreciate it. And so I think it's something that everybody that works on commission should consider to, do a small donation. It doesn't have to be big, but it helps a cause of a client. And just from a connection standpoint, you really build something with this person and they're going to remember that. And it'll probably be mutual in the future, So, but it's not, again, I'm not doing it to create a fanfare or something. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. But I don't know, why not? It's fun.
See, I think, and the reason why I asked that question is I used to have an agent that, I'm still friends with. He's still in the business, does very well for himself. But he told me long ago that he takes a portion of every paycheck and he donates to a local charity in his buyer's name and lets them know that he's doing it. And it just like a thunderbolt, hit me, your reason should be because, like you said, you want to do that, right? It's just what we should do in terms of supporting the community, supporting charity. It's just a great thing to do. But it's also a genius business idea. It just is by proxy. Right. Because if you are donating to local charities, those charities potentially get to know you. Mm-hmm. So you're doing a good thing for the community. You're looking good in your buyers or sellers' eyes, and you're also doing the right thing. And so in the end, it leads to more business. Win. Yes, it's win-win. It's so easy. And I was like, oh my God, that is the best idea that I think I've ever heard.
It is. Not to mention, you can sleep well at night knowing you contributed something to this charity, whatever that cause might be. And I'm telling you, my wife and I have learned about so many causes, and you really learn something new about the client. Like, wow, okay, we've been all business to this point, but wow, you really care about this. That's really, really interesting. And then moving forward, you see an article posted about something related, and then you send it to them. It's just a nice way to reach out. Hey, I thought you'd care about this, obviously. So yeah, it's all about this personal connection, and that's how we've been able to strike up referrals. And you started to get into once we got busier. So I'm happy to go there.
Yeah. So your business starts to expand and, you start to get busier. What challenges, I guess, do you come across getting busier, taking people out to coffee, right? Do you still find the time to do that, to be relational? How do you still make it work with your relationships with people? Do you get to them as often as you did in the past?
No, I'm not perfect. Definitely less coffees. I really do try and focus on some of the Buffini concepts and put on the CEO hat as much as I can. And certainly I try and keep in touch with these more successful agents that have mentored me since the beginning. And I try and talk to them every couple of months and just catch up. And then with the past clients, that's my wife jumped in a couple years into the business, and she's been huge in that department. So, I'm the face. I'm doing a lot of the current client talks, and she's really helping keep in touch with our hundreds of past clients. And we have so many fun ideas. We do Popeyes. We text, we call, we do an email now and then. And we're on Facebook with all these people, and so Instagram. And we just, people have a baby. We went to their house the other day and dropped off a gift and knocked on the door. And, so that stuff's just as important. It really is. But it's hard. You do lose touch with it because you get busy. So it's hard. It's hard.
It's all about your systems, and how you, like you said, you go through the process. So I wanted to end on this, and I like to ask this question of a lot of agents just to get their viewpoint. So someone wants to get into the real estate business, and what do you think is the most important trait for any agent to have, any new agent getting in the business to be successful?
Sure. Thick skin comes to mind. That getting it rolling is something, man. It's something else, and you got to take some losses for sure. You might work with somebody for 3 months and then they're gone. They disappear, So thick skin, I think, is really important. And I guess supplemental word would be consistency. You wake up every morning, you have your mission, you stick with it every day. And I do think it is a very specific type of personality that is good for a realtor. It's not for everybody, but I think importantly is just having thick skin, rolling with the punches. You have to be responsible. You have to make sure you have some savings. You have to make sure you have some other form of income to keep you afloat, because if you're relying on real estate commissions in your early days, when you don't have a sphere of influence and you don't have a new client every week or so, you are going to be stressed out of your mind. Mm-hmm. So I really think it's just about being responsible, having thick skin, being consistent every day. And, back to that find your lane thing, that's huge in this business because there's a million different ways to do it. But if you can realize that this is an entrepreneurial type of business, but we're not entrepreneurs. We don't have to build a business and all the systems and processing and all. There's actually a structure here. And that's why I think it's the best career in the world.
Absolutely.
I may write a book someday called that. I mean, it is the best career in the world because you can be an entrepreneur type. You can make what you're worth. You can set your hours. But there is a foundation here of how real estate can be done. And you're with an office. And I mean, it's a really, really good mix. And one other thing I would say about finding your lane, I think this financial author, Rick Ferry, wrote this recently in a totally different industry. He's in finance, but he has 4 stages to success. The first stage is darkness. So you get in, and I really like. Okay,
it sounds very optimistic, by the way.
Yeah, I like equating it to real estate though, because it really seems to work. It's for investing. That's what he did it for, but I'm bringing it to real estate. So the first stage is darkness. So you get in, you get your license, and you don't know what's going on. I mean, you, like I said, expireds, and you got education and the contract, and you don't know what an appraisal is, and you're just in the dark. Then you get to a place of enlightenment. The light bulb goes off, and you get this business now. You say, wow, okay, I understand how a buyer can get to the closing table. I understand how to put a house for sale and get to the closing table. Okay, I get this. So that's stage 2, you're at enlightenment. Then stage 3 comes, which is called complexity. You make it complicated for yourself at that point. So you have multiple clients, you're running around all day, you're working 7 days a week, and you're overthinking all these deals, you're overthinking communicating with your client. Did I say the right thing? And you're just going nuts. And so that's called complexity. And then you get to the stage where I think I'm at, or I'm hoping to always be at, which is stage 4, and it's called simplicity. You come back from the madness of complexity, and you come into simplicity, and you say to yourself, okay, let me take a breath here. I do have a lot of clients right now. It's great. I have referrals coming in. But you know what? Let me just get rid of all the noise. I've listened to so many podcasts and webcasts, and this is a valuable one. But, there's also those millionaire real estate podcasts. And I got all these different tricks and blah, blah. All right, all that's out the window. Let's come to simplicity and our Zen and say, okay, I understand how this business works. And if I meet someone new, I'm just going to take it easy, say, hey, how can I help you? Okay, cool. They throw a bunch of crazy stuff at you, say, hey, that's cool. We'll get to it. Let's go step by step. And that's where I like to be now, is I meet someone new and I say, hey, we're just going to take it step by step. Right now we're at step 1. Let's just worry about that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I hope you stay in simplicity. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Sounds very Zen where you're at right now.
Not all the time, but
well, listen, man, I've taken way too much of your time, but it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man. I really appreciate it. I think you give a lot of pearls of wisdom, and hopefully you and I will connect again in the future.
That sounds good. Thanks for having me, thinking of me. I'm honored, grateful. I'm not worthy. It's really it's a real honor to speak to our agents, and it's a great company. And I hope some people took some value from our talk.
All right, Andrew. Have a good one. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot, Jason. Have a good day.
Okay, that was our interview with Andrew, and I really like what he had to say. You know, he talks about staying in his lane. Well, what does staying in your lane mean? Well, to me, it's like, let's focus on your strength, right? And what is that strength that you bring to the table, and how can you focus on that strength and make that into a successful business? For Andrew, he was a great networker, and that worked for him. But for you, it may be something completely different. You have to find what that is, and you have to consistently go after it. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and that's our episode for this week. We'll be back in a couple weeks with a new episode, new guest. Until then, stay safe, stay selling, and we'll catch you next time on the Everything Real Estate Podcast.